Have you ever just been taking a stroll to see your local ducks? When someone comes up to you and starts blabbing about Persona 4, and you just stand there and think, the heck is a persona, and why are there 4? Or maybe you were browsing through the web and saw some of this, or maybe some of this, and you were confused, yet curious. Or maybe your cat accidentally pawed on your keyboard clicking on this video. I don't know. Regardless, today I will be answering the question, what in Igor's nose is Persona 4? Persona 4, as you may have guessed, is the 4th installment in the Persona series. Okay, well actually it's the 5th, but I'm gonna group Persona 2, Innocent Sin, and Eternal Punishment together since I'll make the rules here. The Persona series was developed by Atlus, a Japanese video game developer based in Tokyo. And it was directed by Katsuda Hashino, with art done by Shigenori Sojima and music done by Shoji Meguro, who, let me tell ya, writes absolute bops. After the success of Persona 3, the same team, with a few new additions, were tasked with creating another game for the series. Hashino's goal was to create a standout sequel that gave players a definite goal. Thus, the mystery plot was born. The game kept a lot of the same ideas as 3, with some changes to the UI and menu systems, but one prominent change was made to the gameplay. Players now had the ability to control their party members' actions in combat, instead of having it AI controlled.
Brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same.
The original game was released in 2008 on the PlayStation 2, later being ported for the PS3, with Golden releasing in 2012 exclusively on the PS Vita. Until now, that is. The reception of the game was overwhelmingly positive. It won a few awards, had amazing sales, and led to several spin-off games as well as an anime. As a lot of people will say, it refused to die. Which honestly, to fans of the game, wasn't necessarily a problem. You play as whatever you named this fine lad.
Hot boy! Hot boy! Hot boy!
A transfer student moving from the unnamed big city to the small, seemingly quiet town of Inaba. Canonically, his name is Yuna Okami, so that's what I'll be referring to him as going forward. You will be living here for the next year while his parents party overseas. He'll be living with his mother's younger brother, yes, that's really how he introduces himself, Dojima, and his angel, peanut, cinnamon roll of a daughter, Nanako.
I love you so much!
After like a day, Yu finds 2 people have already been murdered with their bodies being found in very strange manners.
Oh lord.
All the while, he hears of something called the Midnight Channel, a mysterious TV channel that only comes on at midnight on rainy days. Supposedly, it'll show you your soulmate. When watching it one night, Yu has the urge to touch the TV. I mean, hey, we've all been there. And he finds he has the ability to go into it.
Oh my god!
Yu tells his new buddies, Yosuke and Chie, and they essentially tell him he's a nut, but decide to play along by bringing him to a TV that he could actually fit his whole self into. Due to Yosuke's, bladder issues, the 3 of them inadvertently end up falling into the TV and find themselves in a whole other world. In this world, they discover shadows of people they know and even themselves. Shadows are exaggerated and distorted versions of the person that seem to reveal that person's deepest secrets and thoughts. They make the connection that those who are being killed are being thrown into the TV world and killed by their own shadows. The gang also discovers that they wield the power of a persona, which are basically like big-ass mythology-inspired thingies that act like Pokemon. With this power, they decide it is up to them to save those being thrown into the TV, find who is responsible, and save the town from any more murders. Persona 4 is a beautiful medley of a turn-based JRPG and life simulation game. The JRPG element plays out in the TV world, where you will go through a dungeon with your party members and fight enemies with your persona. Each party member has their own persona with unique abilities. The player has the capability to wield multiple different personas. This allows you to switch to the persona you find to be the most ideal for a particular enemy, and we'll get more into this in a second. The combat is that of traditional turn-based RPGs. You have a health bar that determines how much damage you can take, and an SP bar, which is essentially your persona points. Personas have 2 types of abilities, physical and elemental attacks. Elemental attacks will use SP, whereas physical will use HP. A big mechanic for combat in Persona 4 is enemy weaknesses. Weaknesses allow you to knock down an enemy. Once all enemies are knocked down, you are able to perform an all-out attack, which deals a hefty bit of damage to the enemies. There's no real tell, at least from what I've found, to an enemy's weakness. A lot of the time it's just trial and error. So do your best in mixing up your attacks and see what works. There's a sort of pattern when it comes to how the game progresses. Essentially, the game will go, someone will be thrown into the TV world, you must infiltrate their dungeon in the TV world, and rescue them within the time limit, which is usually about 2 to 3 in-game weeks. Failing to save the person in the allotted time will result in a game over, so be smart with your time. Persona 4 has implemented a weather system in their game. Different events will happen during different weather types, so it's important to pay attention to them. A tell of when you're nearing the deadline of saving someone is when the weather forecast shows multiple days of rain in a row. So if you see that coming and you haven't yet beaten the boss of the dungeon, get moving, my love. The second part of the game is the life simulation aspect. This is where the player attends school, roams around town, and forms social links. What are social links? Oh, I am so glad you asked. Social links are the relationships and bonds you make with the different characters in the game. Each link has 10 levels until you reach max bond. Each character has a unique arc that unfolds as your relationship strengthens. There's even the chance to romance a few of the characters, which if you want to romance a lady, you are in luck, but if not, you will understand my pain. Now, if being a good friend doesn't interest you, you should still consider social links an important part of the game. Social links with your party members unlock special abilities for battle. In addition, their persona will also become upgraded. Every social link corresponds to a different arcana tarot. Therefore, when you level up a social link, you also have the ability to fuse a stronger persona of that arcana. Ah, but we have yet to discuss fusions. Well, let's jump into that now. Upon starting the game, you will find yourself in a blue limo, with a lady and a man with a, shall we say, prominent facial feature?
Hello, Pinocchio.
This is Igor and his assistant Margaret. They inform you that you are currently in the Velvet Room, a place that exists between consciousness and subconsciousness. This is where you can take personas you've obtained and fuse them together. Certain personas can only be obtained via fusion, so don't take it for granted. Also, you must be of a certain level with both your character stat and your arcana stat to fuse these certain personas. Now, how does one get personas? Whenever you kill an enemy, in addition to receiving XP and items, you may also be given the opportunity to play Shuffle Time. Shuffle Time differs depending on what version of Persona 4 you're playing. In the original game, it's a little mini-game where the player gets to pick a card from a bunch of other moving cards. A poor explanation, but hopefully seeing it here you get an idea. There are 3 different cards that you may end up pulling. A persona card that, as you may have guessed, is a persona you can now obtain. A blank card, which is essentially a nothing card. And a penalty card, which, if pulled, means the player will not receive any rewards after the battle. In Golden, however, Shuffle Time was changed up. No longer do you pick from a bunch of moving cards, but now cards will be laid face up with the player able to choose which one they would like. Shuffle Time can be randomly triggered from finishing a fight, but will always occur if you end a battle with an all-out attack. Sometimes you will get the opportunity for a full sweep. This is where you can take all the cards that are laid out. This can be both good and bad, as in the sweep you may get both bad and good cards. So you kinda have to gauge if the pros outweigh the cons when taking all of them. In addition, if you do get a full sweep, Shuffle Time will pop up at the end of your next combat, regardless of how you ended it. I have said it before, and I shall say it once more. I am not great at games. I also don't have a lot of mind-blowing tips that could only be obtained through countless hours of replaying the game. I wish I was as cool as the people who do, but I am a casual player when it comes to most games. That being said, as a casual player, I still think I have some good tips that will help other casual players. Mind you, some of these may be super obvious, but we're gonna mention them anyways. Number 1, plan your days optimally. Time management is a key part of Persona 4. It is important to pay attention to the weather, and in turn the deadline of the rescue mission. As mentioned before, weather can have an effect on the events available for the day. So for example, if you have a social link with the sports team, you want to make sure you plan to rank it on a day that it isn't raining, as there's no option on the rainy days. You also want to make sure you balance between social links and dungeon exploring. If you delay in exploring the dungeon in favor of ranking links and personal stats, you may not have enough time to reach and fight the boss, thus resulting in a game over. However, if you finish the dungeon too early, the game will automatically skip forward, meaning you will miss out on valuable time that could have been spent leveling links or skills. Number 2, don't feel you have to rush through dungeons. When I first played through Persona 4, I didn't really know how the game worked, and the way the game stresses the urgency of saving those who have been thrown into the TV world, I thought I should complete the dungeons ASAP. However, I came to find I ran out of SP real quick.
Uh-oh, stinky.
So, in an effort to make it through the dungeon quick, while also saving SP, I started just running through floors, avoiding enemies. A good strat. Until it wasn't. Yeah, as you may have guessed, by the time I got to the boss, I was very underleveled and got straight up drop kicked. Feel free to take your time with dungeons. You don't have to sprint through them, the game gives you more than enough time. Use the save areas as checkpoints, and a point to gauge if you should continue onwards based on your SP. And you can use my favorite item in the game, the Go Home. This item allows you to warp out of the dungeon in a pinch. This can save you from, dying and having to start from your last save point. Which brings me to my next tip. Save a lot. Save, and then save again. Every chance you get. Okay, that might be a bit much, but believe me when I say that saving is crucial in games like these. When you get a game over, you go to the last save point. And in a Persona game, that could mean hours of gameplay and dialogue. So whenever you get a chance, just do it. Number 4, don't feel you can't research. This one may be controversial, so bear with me. In my opinion, and let me stress that it is only my opinion, there is no shame in doing some Persona-related research. There are plenty of bosses that are made much easier with a certain Persona. By looking into what those are or what you need to fuse them, it may make it a lot easier to get through. Some may see this as cheating, but honestly, if it's something that improves your experience, why not do it? I know I would have been stuck on one boss, and to avoid spoilers, I shall not get too much into it, without having looked up a life-saving Persona, which I also need to see the fusion recipe for. That being said, be careful of spoilers. This game is so story-heavy, you don't want any of it revealed to you. And lastly, don't neglect your character skills. In addition to your social links, you can also spend your school lifetime leveling up your social stats. These include your courage, diligence, understanding, expression, and knowledge. Having these stats at a certain rank will allow you to initiate or continue certain social links, obtain dialogue options,
I'm about to beat this bitch up,
or gain access working part-time jobs. My advice? Get these early, because they can be quite the annoying block when trying to get a link leveled or even start one. Now, you may be wondering, I've heard of Persona 4, and I've heard of Persona 4 Golden. What's the difference? I've mentioned it a bit throughout the video, but I will now present to you a spoiler-free list of all the major changes. Now, I do want to credit the article I found that gave me all this super useful information. It was all written by Andrew Stretch from TechRaptor, so big thanks to Andrew, if he somehow ever comes across this video. You can think of Persona 4 Golden as an update to the original game. It's almost like a DLC that's sprinkled throughout the game, in addition to some gameplay and graphic updates. School life and story-wise, Golden has a new bad ending, 2 new events, 2 new social links, new locations you can access via your new scooter, and the ability to garden and catch bugs. In terms of gameplay, Golden now has an additional dungeon, an updated version of Shuffle Time, the ability for party members to perform a tag team attack, new difficulties, the ability to inherit skills when fusing personas, and the ability to now go out in the evening when Dojima isn't home. And with that, I hope I have given a bit more insight into the question, what in Igor's nose is Persona 4? Thank you all so much for joining me here today, it means everything. If you have any games you'd like to see a similar video on, please do not hesitate to recommend it below. Thank you all again, and I hope you have a lovely day, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you. Have a good one.